about?
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Just thinking about our project in government coming up, I'm trying to think of an idea, but can't seem to think of anything original. Everything's already been taken up.
Yeah, man, I get you. But you know what? What is original anyway?
Oh, hey, Adam.
Hey, Thomas. I was just talking to Joey about that government project, and we decided on the topic of originality, but then we ran into a bit of a predicament. Like, what is originality anyway?
Well, let's start off with a hypothetical situation. Say two people create about the same thing at the same time without knowledge of the other person's creation. Much like the situation of Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz and calculus. They each created or published calculus around the same time, and there's a lot of controversy on which one, is the true original author.
Yeah, but Newton came up with it first, so isn't it his original idea?
Hey Thomas, what's on your mind?
I was just thinking about the conversation that Adam and I just had on the topic of originality. I brought up a point that Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz created calculus at about the same time. Adam says Newton is the original creator because Newton created it first.
Well, that kind of depends on the definition that you use. I mean, the first one says that it's the one that was created first, but there's also another one that says it's not dependent on other people's ideas.
So which one is original?
Kind of gets me thinking about Theseus's ship. Yeah, I mean, Theseus's ship is all about this ship. There's 100 pieces of wood in it, and each year they replace one piece of wood with a new piece, and they replace, after 100 years, they replace every single piece of the ship. And then in the storehouse that they stored all the old pieces in, they get them out, and they build a whole other ship with it. And so which one's the original ship? The one that has all the original pieces, or the one that was created 100 years earlier? Originality, huh?
Yeah, the whole idea is a kind of a blurry, complex thing. It's who came up with it first and whatnot. Hey, Adam.
Hey guys, so I've been doing some serious research on originality topic and all that, and I think I come up with something. So maybe it's not so much about who came up with the idea first, but who claimed it first. Like in copyright.
Oh yeah, I get you.
That makes sense, but why do humans still value originality so much then?
Hey Mr. Baca, can I ask you a quick question real quick?
Sure.
So we've been doing a lot of research on our originality topic, and we found some good stuff, but one question that we've been having a hard time answering is why do humans value originality so much? Especially when sometimes we just want to fit in.
Well, Adam, that's a good question. I think humans value originality for several different reasons. I think, for one, we have an idea of originality. So I think philosophers, when they're thinking about the origins of originality, I don't think we ever really get to the point, is there something that has its own origin, right? Is there something unique? Is there something credible about this uniqueness? And human beings, for the most part, go about operating as if this idea is true, that there is something original, that there are unique ideas. And there's several different reasons for that. I think aesthetically within things like the arts, that it gives value to how we judge and critique various works of art, that without that judgment, then no work of art could really be any more important than any other. And so we think about this idea of originality, that it gives credibility to one work over another. So, but also I think it empowers the art form itself, that if you think that there's the possibility of an infinite amount of creative ideas, an infinite amount of potential paintings you can paint, an infinite amount of songs and song structures and expressions and plays and movement and dance and all these things that people do, then I think it motivates us and inspires us to create. Because if it was understood that nothing was original, that everything was just pure influence, then you wouldn't have that motivation. And thus we would lack that criteria that's necessary for evaluating a piece of artwork over another. But I think also it does have to go about just living with an idea that we all accept as practical, that it helps us in the everyday sense. And this is something like economical, it could be political, that we want to know if it's possible to have an original idea. So we're talking about academics, right? That in the world of ideas, it's who gets credit, right? And that who do we give that credit to? Who do we value? Who do we award, right? We award the artist, we award the thinker, the author. You come up with the original idea, but we know that everything has to be influenced. Even the author had to learn how to write from some other author. You have to read a book, right? You have to see a painting before you can paint. So I don't know if originality is ever going to be a real thing, but we act as if it is, right? And that's how we give credit, and that's how we evaluate things. I think it's also political. When you write a policy, when you write a law, when you come up with a structure for how people should live, you want to think, well, what influenced that and what makes it necessary? And I think originality within economics and politics is just important as it is in aesthetics. That it gives us a kind of motivation, not only to judge a certain idea, but to motivate us to keep creating those ideas. Because without originality, there'd be no motivation.
Yeah, I definitely see what you mean.
Hey, Mr. Kern, how are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How about you?
I'm doing alright, just trying to get some stress off, eat a Pop-Tart. I have a pretty stressful project in government.
What's stressful about government?
Well, so we're coming up with this idea about originality, and we're trying to figure out like where it comes from. And I found like this article, it comes from humans, but it wasn't really clear on like where we get it from. I mean, you know a lot about ethology. Could you maybe tell me about some originality?
Pull up a chair. There are many points of departure that you can look at this, but first off, this is something that we've rolled about who we are and what we are for a long time. Look at our own name, Homo sapiens. Do you have any idea what sapiens means?
Means man, or
Homo refers to man. Sapiens means wise.
wise man.
Okay. It doesn't mean wise guy like a comedian, okay?
Okay.
It means wise person, wisdom. Homo sapiens, we're really different from the rest of the world based on wisdom. Somewhere along the line, we've gone through evolutionary processes that put us through what you call an evolutionary crucible. The ones who could figure out how to adapt to their environment, adapt to life and so forth, were more likely to survive. This has become an evolutionary trait of Homo sapiens.
So
Thinking.
if you were coming up with new ideas and how to survive, if you came up with the idea of a spear or a bow and arrow, it was something that would keep you alive, so it would pass on your genes.
Well, yeah, you would
your
pass on
intelligence.
because you're successful. We have gotten to a point where while man is physically evolving, what's evolving faster is our technology and our society. Culture. We've had to adapt. Starting hundreds of thousands, millions of years ago, we've had to adapt to a changing environment. Everybody talks about climate change right now, but climate change has been going on. And at times in our history, climate change has just whipsawed back and forth. Arctic, glaciers, drought, deserts, heat. And Homo sapiens can't move as fast as glaciers do. So what happens is we've had to adapt. And one of the big adaptations, the most successful adaptations for Homo sapiens, is adaptability. We've gotten beyond making fingers that work better. We've gotten beyond seeing better. We've gotten really actually come up with new inventions. And in the simplest sense, we call this culture. And the culture that serves best is a culture that survives. A classic example of that is the dietary restriction against eating pork by desert Bedouins, the Hebrews and the Arabs. Anybody who's raising pork in the desert is crazy because pigs eat the same thing humans and beings do. And in the drought, in a bad time, it doesn't work because they'll compete with you for food, but your goat can go out and eat a bush. It can twigs and so forth. Hence the rule, you will not eat certain animals. You won't, basically, if you look at it really closely, you won't eat pigs.
Okay.
All right? That was a cultural adaptation to the changeability environment. It was a very wise thing to do. It was original. We had to think of it. And anyways, original thought, originality is a trait of Homo sapiens, provides us with flexibility, coming up with new solutions, coming up with new ideas. It is the hallmark of what we are. And in fact, one of the oldest passages we have in any of our literature is a reflection on us, and that is that in the beginning, God created. We created, okay? That's like the fifth word in the earliest document that we have. Creation, originality is essential to who we are.
Originality. We finally figured it out, huh?
Yeah, we did, man. Just like Isaac Newton, whoever claims it.
Now it's about whoever's idea was first.
What are you talking about? Everyone wants to be original. That's why we all come up with ideas and claim them.
If we all wanted to be original, then well, we all trying to fit in.
Whoa, let's
I'm
just
just-
look
hey,
at
hey.
the definition.
Maybe it's not the definition. Maybe it's not who claimed it first. Maybe it's not who thought of it first. Maybe the definition is something deeper, not quite as broad. Maybe the definition of originality is inside all of us.